Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Untitled Library Podcast. Today we're talking with UWSP Libraries Director Mindy King. Mindy has worked in the UWSP Library for 19 years, the past 7 of which she has been director. We discuss Mindy's formative years, the path she took on the way to becoming a librarian, what the job of academic library director looks like, and how she unwinds in her free time. So please join me for an entertaining and informative talk with Mindy King. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in northern Minnesota, actually. I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is in the Twin Cities area. And then when I was 3 or 4, my parents moved to northern Minnesota. My dad worked in the taconite mines there. So the industry up there is all taconite mining. It's called the Iron Range. Sort of like the paper mills where we live in central Wisconsin now. The industry there is the mining communities. So it was a beautiful area. We lived on a lake. I grew up on Perch Lake and took the bus every day to Hibbing High School. So home of Bob Dylan and Kevin McHale, if you're a basketball fan.
Yeah.
So he played for the Celtics. I grew up there. My parents are still there. It's a beautiful area. I love to go back and visit.
Did your dad ever let you visit the mines with him?
Well, I actually worked in the mines for one summer. So they hired college students. So children of people that work there, they would hire you for the summer because a lot of people would take vacation. They needed more help. And I called myself a hoser. My job was to hold a fire hose 8 hours a day.
Oh my God.
And because the taconite would fall off the conveyor belts onto the floor, and then you had to hose it off the floor. And there would be days where it was like inches thick, and you just hosed it down a drain. And I don't know if they did anything with it because it's taconite tailings. It would be wasteful. They must reuse it. But
what is taconite?
It's a form of steel.
Okay, so they smelt it and
I don't know the whole process. I know that I worked in the pellet plant, so there's the mining operation where they take it out of it's open pit mining, and there's these giant dump trucks that go down into the pits, and they take the front loaders and fill them up, and it comes back up. And the building I was in, they took the tailings that had been crushed down and formed pellets that then they shipped to wherever the taconite needed to go.
So this was just raw material.
Yeah.
Were libraries important to you from a young age? Did you, during grade school, go visit your
absolutely.
public libraries?
Well, not the public libraries. So we grew up in the country. I lived on that lake. We were 30 miles out of town, so it was difficult to get to the public library. But reading was a big part of my life growing up. My parents are huge readers. Was instilled at a very young age, and we went to the bookmobile.
I was just going to ask that.
So it came to the little county store that was 2 miles away, and my brother and I would ride our bike. It was a big deal when the bookmobile would come. I just have really fond memories. It was like a little bus that would come, and we'd ride our bikes with our backpacks and pick out the books we wanted. And I don't remember if it was weekly or monthly, but it was a big deal. We looked forward to it.
So do you have the option of pre-ordering your book, or do you get whatever is on the bus?
At the time, because I was pre-computers, I'm that old, it was whatever was on the bus. Okay. There maybe was a pre-order. Like, there used to be a mail book option, so I don't know if there was a way that you could do it. But we always just went and whatever was on the bus. But there were several, I don't know, maybe even 1,000 books. There was a lot of children's books on that bus.
A lot of selection.
There was a lot of selection, yeah.
Let's talk about high school for a little bit. What was the name of the high school?
Hibbing High School.
Hibbing.
Yes.
Did you enjoy high school? Did you play sports?
Yeah, I enjoyed high school. I was really shy in high school. I mean, I'm an introvert still, so it makes sense. My high school is interesting because when it was built was during the big boom of the mining industry in the early, like the 1920s. And so our high school is beautiful. It's just grandiose building, and like the auditorium has these crazy beautiful chandeliers. Everything is granite, and there's this beautiful artwork. The library is gorgeous. No one ever used the library. Even I didn't use the library in high school. That's just awful. But it's this beautiful building. It's on the National Registry now.
Is it still maintained?
It is, yeah. And they talk about how much it costs to clean those chandeliers. They have to have a special person come from Sweden, or I'm getting the country wrong, but
Yeah.
it's really expensive to maintain some of those things.
Usually those kind of things kind of fall by the wayside after a while.
Yeah. So far they're maintaining most of it, but it's an impressive high school. So what did I do in high school? I was on the swim team.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only sport I played. Everyone thought I would play basketball because I'm tall, but just
No interest.
I played for a couple of years, but my friends weren't playing, and so
Right.
I didn't keep going.
Was there a pool right there in the school?
Yeah, and they actually built they added on to the high school while I was there, and they built a new pool complex, new gym. So that was fun. We got to use it my senior year. So,
Is it a big school, like population-wise?
it was. I mean, it's smaller than Stevens Point.
Spash?
So my graduating class was 250, which I thought was big at the time,
Right,
but
yeah.
compared to Stevens Point, that was pretty small.
And then where did you go to college?
So I went to college in Moorhead, Minnesota, Concordia College. It's a small Lutheran private college, and that is right on the border between Minnesota and North Dakota.
Oh, okay.
And it's where my mom went to college, and all her siblings went to college.
Legacy.
It's a legacy, yes. And I went there because my mom went there. And I'm happy with my choice. It was a good fit for me. I worked in the library there. I actually worked in the archives there.
Oh, really?
For 3 years.
Oh, really?
And one summer, I processed all of Dr. Drake's collections that he donated. He was an author that wrote several books about farming in North Dakota and Minnesota, and so we have all of his manuscripts. I remembered thinking, why do we need all of this? We did from his note cards to every version of his manuscript. I don't think they kept all of that, but it was really interesting to see that writing process.
Oh, that's neat. What did you major in at college?
I was a biology major, and I was pre-med, so my goal was to go to med school. I had an uncle who was a doctor in a small town in North Dakota, and he died at a really young age, and I just had really fond memories of him, and so it was sort of my ideal to live in his shoes. And so I took all the classes, and I think it was my senior year in college. I was like, I don't want to be a doctor. What was I thinking? This is
after you spent 3.5 years.
Yeah, it was very late in the game. I was part of a health profession interest club, and so we'd go listen to different physicians talk about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember this OBGYN coming in, and she's like, she was late and frazzled, and I'm so sorry, I've just been in delivery for 48 hours. I'm like, yeah, that's not for me.
Right.
I don't know. So I never took the MCATs or anything. I graduated with my biology degree, not really knowing what I was going to do.
And then you eventually ended up at
in library school. Yeah. So because I worked in the archives, my boss there really encouraged me to go to library school. She said, you have a biology background that will serve you well as a health sciences librarian.
Mm-hmm.
To have that background, and you have library experience. So she said they're always looking for people. So the plan was to take time off to figure things out. Mm-hmm. And then I got my loan payment schedule, and I went, no.
About 6 months out of school, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, yep. So I quickly figured out that if I go back to school, I can defer.
Mm-hmm.
And applied to grad school in Milwaukee and Madison. I got into both and chose Milwaukee because they had a health sciences emphasis.
Oh, okay.
So I went there, and that was really pre-online program.
Right.
So I moved to Milwaukee. I remember driving there, like I didn't have an apartment. I didn't have anything. I drove there, and that was like, you had to have a map. You didn't have your phone telling you where to go.
Right.
Like, I don't know how I did any of that.
No MapQuest even?
No idea how I did that.
Yeah.
But I had over the phone, I had scheduled some rooms to go visit and rent. So I was able to rent something that first night. And
I don't think that'd be possible nowadays.
No, I don't, yeah. So anyway, but I enjoyed Milwaukee for 2 years. And then when I graduated, I worked then I went and worked at the St. Michael's Hospital Library in town here for 7 years.
So did you get doctors that needed articles, that type of thing?
Yeah, it was a lot of literature searching. So the physicians would need to do a procedure that they weren't real familiar with, or a lot of providing evidence, because they had to advocate to insurance companies why things should be covered. And so I would provide evidence, journal articles.
Needed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
We also did a table of contents service where all of the current issues would come in. Again, this was kind of like online journals were just becoming a thing, and so they couldn't really go online to look at what the current articles are. So we would get the new issue in, and we'd photocopy the table of contents and put it in their mailboxes, and then they would circle or highlight the ones that they wanted. And then we had volunteers. Patty Cray, who used to work here, she was one of the volunteers. They would photocopy the articles for the physicians, so then they could, that's how they kept
labor
current.
intensive.
It was labor intensive.
Yeah.
It's so much easier now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then graduated from Milwaukee. Did you get a job right away? Did you have to hunt much?
I went on a few different interviews. My goal was really to get out west. I grew up skiing and really wanted to go live out west, enjoy the mountains. That's what I thought my calling was. But I had a really hard time getting a job out there. And I did a lot of phone interviews. But more locally than I was able to get that job at the St. Michael's Hospital Library. And my goal really was for 2 years of professional experience.
Yep.
And then I'm out of here.
Apply, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got married in there. So
that always throws a wrench into
I'm
things.
still here. Still in central Wisconsin. But this is a great community to be in. I really enjoy it.
So I'm guessing we already know the answer to this, but when you went into the field, did you ever expect to be a director?
I don't really know what I expected. I expected I would work in a medical library for a long time. I had no interest in being a director. I still don't quite know if I have that. I mean, I've been doing it late now. I've been doing it for long enough now that I think I enjoy it as much as one possibly can. But no, I really, like I said, I'm an introvert. I don't really like being real forceful, so it just seemed like it was opposite of my personality. So the way it worked out, I think I'm doing okay, but I would have never have planned this for myself.
What do you do as library director?
That's a good question.
Is that loaded, Brad? Or what?
So I feel like the work is, I think it's 3 buckets of work. One is the budget management part of it, and because we have a complex budget where we buy a lot of varied research. We don't just have personnel dollars, which are pretty fixed. We spend a lot of money on the resources that we provide to campus. So it's managing those budgets and making sure that everything's going to come in where they should and that we're not overspending, and then advocating for additional dollars as needed. So that's the first sort of bucket. The second bucket is the people management. So making sure that you all are doing your jobs, and mainly not so much doing your jobs, but making sure you have the resources that you need to do your jobs. So being aware of what people need to be successful, and then trying to figure out how to make that happen. Making sure that the work that we're doing is aligning with the mission of the university, mission of the library, and trying to we have a lot of really creative people, and so making sure everyone's sort of trying to head in the same direction, that kind of work with people. And then the third bucket of things is advocating. Yeah. And making sure the library is promoted and people are aware of the resources and the services that we have and the people that we have that are here to support them, and then making sure then that from administration we have the resources to provide those services and resources. So it's budget management, people management, advocating. It's
a big job. It's amazing one person can do it.
Well, I don't think one person can. I think I have a lot of help from all of you. So the library team also does a lot of those things, especially with the advocacy pice.
Yeah,
I think true. Everyone is telling that message and helping to make sure campus understands why we are here and how we can support.
When you're not directing libraries, what do you do to relax? if you ever get vacation time?
I follow my children around to all of their various activities. So you have that to look forward to as
Do you
your
have
kid.
football or what?
Yeah, we're ending the football season. We're going into the basketball season, and then it's the little lacrosse season after that.
One right after the other.
Yeah. But I love my kids, and it's fun. I've gotten to know a lot of really good people through other parents who are doing the same things. So if I'm not doing that, then I just want to be sitting on my boat, having a beverage of some sort.
Yeah. Do you ever go out skiing out west?
Not out west. It's been many years since I've been out west skiing. About once a year, my two boys, my husband doesn't ski, but my two boys and I will get to, we've gone to Nordic Mountain, which is southeast of here. It's a little ski hill. We've gone there a couple times. I have a good friend that works there, and so we'll go ski with him. And my brother works up at Lutsen Mountains now, which is on the north shore of Lake Superior on the Minnesota side.
Okay.
So last spring break, we went and skied with him for a day.
Oh, that's fun.
Even though there was no snow.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah, it was all man-made.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you camp?
We do. So I spent 3 summers while I was in grad school working as a canoe guide in the Boundary Waters. So I would take groups of people out camping for a week. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Boundary Waters,
I've
but
never
it's
been
a
there.
totally motorless area. So it's a national wilderness area. You have to have a permit to go in. And so I worked for Camp Vermilion, and I would take high school groups in for a week, and we'd have 3 canoes for 9 people, and you'd have backpacks full of stuff, and you would just paddle from lake to lake, and you would portage from one lake to the other. If I could have made a living doing that, I'd probably still be doing that.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. I'm old enough now where it would be like my body couldn't take it anymore. But at the time that was probably the most in shape I had ever been. I could carry a 90-pound canoe, an aluminum canoe, and a backpack over a 2-mile portage.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You went whitewater rafting recently?
That was 2 or 3 summers ago. No, it wasn't. It was in May. My brother had gotten a permit to go rafting down the Grand Canyon, so the Colorado River, and it's about 200 miles of river through the Grand Canyon. And he invited me to go. And it was a 16-day trip. My first response was, I can't leave my family or my job for that amount of time.
So you went alone? Or not alone, but you went...
Yeah, my family didn't.
You from your nuclear family.
Right,
Okay.
correct. I left my husband at home with 2 young children and said, deal with it. Because he told me, he's like, you have to do this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I said, okay, I think I can do this. And then Gretel said, of course, you can take that amount of time off. It's really not that long to be gone from work. People do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I have really good people that they probably don't even really need me to do their jobs. So nobody noticed that I was actually gone. But that, if you ever have the chance to go into the Grand Canyon, not view it from above, to view it from the Colorado River, I highly recommend it. That was a completely different kind of camping, because I'm used to in the Boundary Waters, you traveled very light. You had to carry everything, so you didn't take a lot of stuff. And so I had that mindset because, this is very remote.
Right.
Once you get down there, it's really hard to get out, actually. I wasn't quite aware of how hard it is to get out.
Out of the canyon?
Yeah. If something happens, there's very few, unless they send in a helicopter, there's very few ways to get out and in through that 200-mile stretch.
It's kind of terrifying.
But I get there, and I wasn't, because I was so far away and had never done it before, I wasn't real involved in the equipment planning. They said, pay this amount of money and we'll take care of everything. So it was, it wasn't
nice.
cheap to do this,
Yeah.
but the amount of stuff we had was insane to me. We had mounds of cases of beer.
I suppose you got to plan ahead.
We had 8 people in our group, and 16 days to plan for. And there, once you get to your campsite, there's not a lot to do.
Right.
So, I mean, there's hiking and stuff, but
a lot of downtime.
So I was just like, we're really, and fire, you have to bring all your own firewood because there's really no fire, and you can't have fires on the beaches. Everything is sand there. I still have sand in places from the trip. There's so I have a guidebook that I brought back with me, and after about a year, I opened it up to look at it, and like sand just fell out of it. There's so much sand on there.
So where do you see yourself professionally or the library in 5 years? 5 to 10 years, perhaps.
5 to 10 years. That's a good question. Well, the library, I mean, the obvious one is we will have a new building to be in. And so I'm really curious to what extent that will shape what we do and how we do it. And I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like we've been a bit invisible during our relocation period. And to have a brand new building will create a lot of excitement about the things that are in it, I think. And so taking that opportunity to really be able to promote and grow the resources and services that we offer is a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
So my hope is that we can, it's hard to say these things and not think about all of the work that goes into it, because I know people work really hard already, and workload is certainly an issue. But I hope that looking towards the future, we can use excitement around a new building to really grow, especially our programming opportunities that we provide for campus. And we have a lot of really interesting things that we do, and a lot of events that we put on. So leveraging the excitement around the new building to grow those opportunities, I think I'm hopeful that will be something that is positive in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I think the other sort of big thing that's coming that is, I'm hoping we can be a leader in, and I think we are already, is this sort of the drive to open resources. And so because textbooks are so expensive, because access to information is so expensive, there's this movement to make sure that information is published in a way that it's not behind a paywall, it's just open. Being able to continue to support those initiatives so that we're not spending so much money on closed resources.
And that would be the databases?
Yeah, I mean, it
books on
could
the
be
shelves.
the books, the journal articles, even the databases. It's a really expensive endeavor to get all of those resources, access to all of those resources.
Yeah.
So making sure that things are openly available will only help all of us. Okay. And I think for the archives specifically, there's so much. The archives is in a really good position because there's so much local interest. And I think making sure that those resources then are accessible to people, and I know you all are working on that, but there just continues to be more excitement, I think, around it, because people are just really interested in the uniqueness of the collections here. So
Definitely.
Personally, I will probably still be working here.
I think that's
and
all
I'm
of our
very
plans.
excited about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you, Brad. It was fun to be here.
And until next time, keep reading, keep exploring, and remember, the library is always open for discovery.